Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Kedd. Today we're going to be talking about tier lists and, in my opinion, the bastardization of tier lists. You guys see three tier lists before you, and I'm going to flame each of them. But first, I want to sort of talk about formatting a tier list because I feel like this is an art that has been lost. When we format a tier list, you guys see the standard S to F, S, A, B, C, D, F. All right? S means, oh, it's the best of whatever it is that you're ranking. A is great, B is good, C is all right, D is bad, F is awful. Really, anything from here on is actually good, right? And then D and F tier are bad, right? If you want, C can be like your midpoint. Some people have C as mid, but really, if you think about it, C is mid. So you have C as mid, you have A and B as good, D and F as awful, and then S as the best. Things that are so exceptional that they deserve their own category. One rule with formatting, generally speaking, do not ever add labels. You don't need them. If you have a good enough tier list, you don't need to explain what it is that defines each category. Sometimes you do, especially if it comes to things like, oh, here's a fight. Here are the tier lists. Here's how I rank it. Fine. And I am saying that as copium for my one video I made like years ago. With that said, generally speaking, you don't want to add labels. I will nitpick this a little bit, but at the same time, generally this is how it's going to look. This is mid. These are bad. These are good. This is for anything that is beyond these. Okay? Again, mid, bad, and excuse my handwriting, I am using my middle finger mouse, good, and then it's self-explanatory, the best. But that leads to the question, are there times where it's okay to break these bounds? Yes. Now I'm going to talk about going beyond the S tier in just a second, but first I want to talk about the ways you can distribute a tier list. Here are 4 different types of tier lists that could be distributed accordingly. This is called an even distribution. I'm going to label it with E. You don't need to really see me go off. By the way, this isn't my opinion about fruits. I just threw random ones on a tier list, okay? An even distribution means I have an even amount every tier, right? If you're doing a ranking or if you're grouping things, you might follow an even distribution. That's fine. This is called a top-heavy distribution, and this is called a bottom-heavy distribution. Of course, they actually have better names. I don't know what they are, so we're going to call them top-heavy and bottom-heavy. Essentially, as you can see, the top has more items than the bottom, hence top-heavy. And the bottom has more items than the top and the bottom. Now you might be thinking, well, is it because I like more of these items up here than below here? And is it because I hate more fruits than I like certain ones? No. The reason you have a top-heavy distribution is to highlight these lower tiers and explain why these are shitty. And when you have a bottom-heavy distribution, these top tiers are supposed to highlight what's good in a tier list. Think of it like an MLM scheme, right? When it comes to a bottom-heavy distribution, you have your CEO, you have your C-suite, you have the managers and shit. You got like the employees, you got the fuck ass interns, and then people you outsource from foreign countries and then claim as your own work. And below that, you have AI. So that's a bottom heavy distribution. And a top heavy one, of course, you got your real stinkers. You've got like things that are all right. And then, this would be like your midpoint, and these are the things that are good. There are examples where you should be using top-heavy distributions. And then this is what's called a normal distribution. Anyone who's taken a statistics class knows what this is. Of course, as you approach the middle, you get more normalcy, and people are generally positive, so this will have the same amount as this. And these are all fine ways to distribute your tier list. However, as I said before, there are times where you need to break the bounds. I'm going to introduce you guys to what I call going beyond the S tier. Now, really, tier lists, believe it or not, started in or they didn't start. Tier lists were popularized in the Smash Bros. Community. And if you look at the Smash Bros. Community, one character in particular across the entire universe in the modern updated tier lists goes beyond the S tier. For anyone that knows what the fuck I'm going to talk about next, you can skip. However, I'm going to be talking about Meta Knight. Guys, Meta Knight was so broken. I remember people talking about him being banned from Smash Bros. Brawl tournaments. If you look at this, he's in a tier of his own. Of course, Ice Climbers is in his own tier, which just goes to show how crazy this shit is. They were already in their own tiers and they had to separate these two. That's how ridiculous it was. There were discussions about what made Meta Knight so OP in Brawl. However, if you do look at the Smash Bros. Wiki, yes, there's an S plus tier, but there's an S plus, S, and S minus to really highlight all the characters in S tier because there are 82 characters. In a 38-man roster, they could have thrown this guy in S tier, but he's in his own special category because he was so fucking broken that he was banned in tournaments, that he is revered even to this day. And some people say, yeah, well, there's counters now. Okay, well, were there counters then? No. And back then, they thought he was so busted, he has a 1.000. Now they're saying it's a little bit like more than this. However, once again, just absolute dominance in this tier list. And of the, 5 titles of Smash Bros., he's the only one to ever transcend the S tier. And it's someone who's tournament banned, or else he's just going to run everyone's shit. That's the kind of mentality you need to be thinking about when you put someone above the S tier. So I'm going to go back to these tier lists that I showed at the start of the video. Look at these tier lists here. Okay. We're going to flame Metro's tier list in just a second. And yes, I am using this video as an excuse to flame Metro. Sue me. Okay, that guy's a smurf. This is an even distribution. However, there are too many tiers. There's 9 tiers for 32 teams. I'll give Metro this. He has a cool 6 tiers. These two both have 9. For a game with as many characters as there are NFL teams, you could have been more condensed here, guys. Can't stop the pass, can't stop the run. Why is can't stop the run below can't stop the pass? You can put them in the same tier. Okay, you don't need to have getting there, really good with a star, clear-cut top defense, right? Actually, this is a defense tier list, I'm noticing. With that said, once again, you could just format it into this. I don't see why this has to go with all these labels here. Now here is like the actual teams, right? Top 5 potential. I don't like this because it follows like a bottom curve. And I know this is like a I don't know what's going on here tier, which, by the way, if you don't know what it is that you have on your tier list, don't include it. You don't need to have a I don't know what this is tier. Just don't have it in your tier list. And if anyone asks why, just say, oh, I don't know. You know, truth be told. But the fact that you don't know who the Dallas Cowboys, the Jets, the Chiefs, or the Bears are is like crazy to me. I can understand why you don't know the Jets, actually. But the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Bears, really? I mean, the Cowboys are like the biggest market. And they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, so I don't know why it is that you don't have this highlighted. Now that I've lost all my subs, I can keep talking. This is almost a good tier list. They just need to redo the labeling here as far as making this S, making this A, B, C, D, and F. Right? You don't need an S+++. The reason people have an S+++ is to make it seem like the meta is so heavily top-sided in these 3 characters' favors that the devs are going to do something about it. Like, oh my god, they're so broken. And actually, we saw this discussed by the etymology nerd on YouTube once. He was talking about sort of S becoming the new A and SS++ becoming the new S tier, etc. And it's just unfortunately something that happens with due time. With that said, I'm going to put my foot down and just let you guys know that this is being very dramatic because Wraith is getting countered hard enough where it's like, oh, well, I need to complain about it to the devs, right? I think that's a lot of bitching. Okay. And meta defining, and then you have a tier above meta defining, just chill out. All right. It's not that serious. The fact that there are as many characters in S and S tier as there are in A and B tier, which is supposed to be the median, is beyond me. But other than that, I'm not really going to flame it too much. However, I will say that as far as S tier goes, in the sense of deadlock, I've thought about this. Are there any times in the history of this game where something went beyond the S tier? And you got to really think about beyond the S tier. For Mennonite to go beyond the S tier, he had to be better than Ice Climbers. Someone who had like 0 to death combos up the wazoo with his wobble chains. Meta Knight, someone who was banned from Super Smash Bros. Brawl tournaments because it'd be unfair. Otherwise, it's just a Meta Knight fest. A character that caused so much discussions and memes about how broken he was that everyone knows about Meta Knight. Someone who defined the Smash Bros. Brawl game and is so broken, he is blamed for the reason that they don't have a competitive scene like Melee does. One of the reasons. There's multiple reasons, but he's one of them. Do we have a character like that in Deadlock's history? The answer is yes, but ever so briefly. That character is Pro Play Kelvin. Again, it's a very niche group. It's a small sample size that we have. However, it tells us a lot. We have Deadlock Night Shift 9 and Deadlock Night Shift 10. In Night Shift 9, Kelvin was first round banned in every single game that was played. Which seems like, oh my god, then how is something that's banned in every game, first round? We don't know if they're actually broken or not. You know, it could just be an overreaction. Maybe someone doesn't want to deal with Kelvin because they're annoying, or maybe there's a couple of guys that are Kelvin one tricks that are absolutely cracked and you need to ban them. Well, in Night Shift 10, there were only 6 games played. And in the 6 games that were played, Kelvin was either first round picked or first round banned in every single game. And for the 4 games that he did play, he bolstered a 100% win rate. Across 2 night shifts, he was either banned or picked first round in all of the games that were played, in 13 of them. And in the 4 that he actually did play, he bolstered a 100% win rate. Now, I'm not like totally sucked into the Deadlock lore. Maybe fucking Prime Shiv or Prime Abrams was moving like this. Maybe Day of Release Victor was moving like this. With that said, with my own 2 eyes, I can observe that this is the closest case to God tier that we've ever had in Deadlock. Beyond the S tier, perhaps. The only case that's ever been made that I actually think, you know what, if you want to put it there, go ahead, was Pro Play Kelvin. And only Pro Play Kelvin. Like in regular play, he's just ass because not a lot of my low elo players know how to use Kelvin properly, right? The low elo players swear that Infernus or Haze or hell fucking Wraith, any gun carry is just absolutely insane. It's redonkulous. However, Night Shift 9 and Night Shift 10 Kelvin, you could make a very strong case for being the only time in Deadlock's history where you could introduce a special tier above S tier for a character, and that would be Kelvin. So yeah, this video is just to basically tell you guys that you guys need to quit putting everything in God tier, because God tier exists for one character only. And as soon as we start introducing more things into a God tier, it sort of makes God tier the new S tier the new A tier. Then all of a sudden B tier is ass, when Bs are good. Bees save the planet. We need bees. You know what I mean? Yeah, this was a little bit lower effort as far as the quality is considered. I did use paint.net and do a little bit of a presentation style for you guys today. You know, it gets me the longer rants and more watch time, which I enjoy. You guys seem to really like my last video about ranking Deadlock characters. Let me know what you guys think about this style of video in the comments below. You know, I took some inspiration from Bedtime MMA, some inspiration from Pirate Software. And what you guys think about my tier list rant? Because, again, I'm very autistically obsessed with things like tier lists because I feel like they've been getting shitified by people that don't know how to make tier lists or don't make them to the standard that were the Smash Bros tier lists, which I know that's really helping my case for not having autism. But really, this, if you go on the wiki, this is the only time ever where someone went beyond S tier. And with that, I've been Kedd. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace!